Hello everyone and welcome back to another demonstration of the JUS-CUTZ A4 die cutting system. Today we're going to be looking at some very basic techniques regards embossing. We're going to be showing you how to put a Fiskers texture plate through the machine, how we run a plastic stencil or a plastic mask through the machine, and last but not least we're going to be using a piece of lace just to show you that almost anything can be embossed in this machine with the use of a unique pressure switch. The pressure switch that we've mentioned before, if Justin can come and have a look, there's a sliding pressure switch on here. Now the pressure switch can be slided that way to increase the pressure, and it can be slided all the way up to net number 18 to decrease the pressure. So it depends basically what you're running through the machine. We're going to start off by setting the pressure switch today at number 5. Okay, and the first thing we're going to be running through the machine is a piece of lace, just to show you that you can indeed emboss just about anything in the machine. Okay, we start off with the base, the thick white base plate. We take a piece of lace, here we are, and we'll sit this on the base plate. The first thing we're going to be using is a piece of foil. Because of the thinness of the lace, and it's incredibly thin, we have to use something that's going to pick up the detail, or basically nothing will work. So we'll take a piece of embossing foil and we'll put the embossing foil on top of the lace. There we are. The next thing we take is our tan embossing mat and lay that over the top of the foil. And last but not least, we use the clear plate on top. As I said, we have for this exercise, because it's a very thin piece of lace, we have set the pressure switch at number 5. Okay, let's run it through the machine and let's see what happens. So off we go, gently through, all the way to the other side. When we get there, we will now bring it back over here. Let's remove the top plate and the tan embossing mat. And I think if Justin can zoom down, you can already see that piece has been embossed. Now that's the rear of it. Let's turn it over and have a look at the front. If I hold that there and wave it in the light like that, I think you can see the depth of embossing. So that piece of foil there has been embossed with that very, very thin piece of lace. Now certain types of card, maybe mirror card, that type of thing will also pick it up, but when it's incredibly thin like that, the best thing to use for these techniques is embossing foil. So that's the first thing we wanted to show you today. Now we'll move on to using plastic masks. Okay, I'm sure lots of you have these at home, and we have one here. That's just a typical plastic mask or stencil. So what we're going to be doing with this, first of all, we'll put it on there. The first thing I want to show you again is something unusual. So the first thing we're going to use with the plastic mask is a piece of very thin copy paper. Now this is about 60-70 grams. It's incredibly thin, and normally with this, if you try and emboss it, well, I'm sure you all know nothing much will happen. But what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be showing you another use for the spray emboss. As you know, the spray emboss aids the cutting and the embossing for all thin metal dies. It also acts as a release agent for getting the pieces out of the dies. So the spray emboss works in 3 different ways. So this time we're going to see if we can deeply emboss a piece of very thin copy paper with a plastic stencil and the use of the spray emboss. So we'll take the spray, here we are, and very gently spray both sides. Very little, we've hardly used anything at all. Okay, as I've said before, we leave this to soak in for roughly about 20 seconds, but basically the longer you leave it, the better the results, because the spray is now penetrating the fibres in the paper to let it do its job. Okay, we should be okay now. So we have the white base plate, we have our stencil, we have our piece of thin copy paper. We will put the embossing mat on the top and close up with the top plate. Now, because we're using a mask, I'm going to up the pressure switch to about number 6 for this exercise, and off we go. The mask is a bit thicker than the piece of lace we were using a few minutes ago, so all we've done is put the pressure up 1 notch. Okay, if you can come over to this side, Justin, let's have a look at the results. Off with the top plate. Off with the embossing mat, and remember this is a very thin piece of copy paper. Now I hope Justin can clearly pick up the results. you can see the depth of the embossing that has been picked up with the use of the spray emboss. The spray emboss has done its work, it's penetrated the fibres in the paper, and it's let us emboss something which normally would be very difficult to do. So once again, that's a demonstration of what the spray emboss is all about. Okay, we'll put that to one side. So let's start again. This time we're going to take the thick white base plate. We're going to be using our thin plastic mask again. But this time we will put the pressure switch up to number 7. We want to show you this time how we can emboss a piece of card, much thicker, around about 250 grams, again using the pressure on the machine. So we have the pressure set to number 7, white base plate, plastic stencil, piece of thick card, and we're now going to put the tan embossing mat on top. There we are. And now again we're going to close up with the clear cutting plate. Okay, pressure set at number 7, let's go. So this is a piece of 250 gram card. It's a piece of pearlescent card because again the pearlescent coating will pick up the embossing very well, and hopefully you will be able to see the results. Let's take the embossing mat off. Here we are. There we are. Now if I hold that there for Justin, can you clearly see the depth of the embossing? Okay. Now we didn't have to use the spray that time because this time we're embossing a piece of coated card, which normally will pick embossing up pretty well, but we just wanted to show you the depth of the embossing that could be created using the pressure on the machine. So that's a thick piece of card. Okay, next thing we're going to move on to. This is something that lots of people ask me about. Let me show you one of these. In fact, I'll show you two. These are Fiskers texture plates. If I turn them that way, you can see that they're fairly thick. Now, lots of people have these at home from the past, and these go way back to the days when we all used to do embossing by hand, using a ball tool, pressing it into the card and into the grooves to create an embossed background. So people have asked us, can we run these through the machine? And the answer is, yes you can. So let's have a look. So for this exercise, what we're going to do again, we use the base plate. We have the texture plate. Now, Fiskers texture plates aren't actually that deep. It's a fairly shallow depth to the embossing. So again, use something like mirror card, pearlescent card, or foil. Foil is probably the best thing of all. So we're going to take a piece of embossing foil this time, and we'll put that on top, and then we will put on the embossing mat. Now, because we have a fairly thick texture plate, this time we have to alter the pressure switch. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the pressure switch all the way up to number 18. That's the top of the scale. Okay, you can see that there. On top of that, we put our clear cutting plate and run the whole lot through the machine at setting number 18. So this is a Fiskers texture plate with a piece of embossing foil. There we are. Let's take this off. Over to the back here, remove the top, remove the embossing mat, and here we have the results. So I can just get this off of here. There we are. Can you see that? So that is the results we can achieve with a Fiskers texture plate. I'll turn it over, you can see it from the other side as well. Now, just in case some of you are saying, well, yeah, with a piece of foil that's going to pick it up very, very well, so why don't we do the same exercise again using 250 gram pearlescent card and see the results. So this time we'll change to another texture plate. In fact, no, we'll turn it over because Fiskers texture plates have a front and a back, two different designs. We'll take our piece of 250 gram pearlescent card, we'll put that on top, we'll put the embossing mat on there, and on with the clear plate. Okay, leave the pressure switch set to round about number 18. You could increase it to number 17 if you want, but number 18 I think for this exercise will be okay. So off we go again, all the way through the machine. Okay, just keep going till you get to the end. There we are. Let's come back here. Remove the clear plate, off with the embossing mat. Oops, let's have a look. Now there you can clearly see the results onto a piece of 250 gram pearlescent card. So we've demonstrated there that by using excuse me, the pressure switch on the machine, we can emboss a whole variety of things. I can actually emboss much thicker texture plates than this. The sort of texture plates that come from the USA that are made for clay, we can easily emboss them. We've shown you how to emboss a piece of fabric, a piece of lace, anything like that with the texture can be done. And all we're doing is altering the pressure switch on the machine. So all these things can be done, including the use of the spray emboss with thin things like paper. You can even emboss a piece of newspaper using the spray emboss, but we may come back to those things later on. Okay, that's it for now.